tears in my eyes.
Rise up out my beamer, I'm finna scoop this hoe who I got through schema.
So he parked down the street, I'm gonna get my creep on. His beamer's looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knot.
Hustlers, players, don't you know? Doing a stick up, that's the wrong karma. Players and hustlers, don't you know? Doing a stick up, that's the wrong karma.
Hey, scheme of the fiend, guess what crack? A fool just got me. Tripping with you.
What went down,
A fool just jacked me.
What was your Mac?
Rolled up in my khakis, in the trunk.
Skunk got me gone, but you was tripping.
That's real, I was living.
Just in time so I can get tucked dipping in your BMW flipping.
But ain't no
Let him
thing.
hang like G.
Revenge is on four legs with a tail between the knees.
So he will get these in UT.
Spitting slugs.
That's coming swarms like killer bee.
What's up, fellas? Alan Roger Currie here. As you can tell by my hat, it's wintertime. That's right, it's wintertime, and it's not really chilly in here, but in the wintertime I like to wear my hats. But outside, it's cold in the motherfucker. Everybody know I hate winter, man. Of the 4 seasons, y'all can have winter back. I like spring, I like summer, I like fall. Winter, I'm not a fan. Now, this is one of the 3 days I rarely do videos on Fridays. Most of my videos are done on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But every now and then I do videos on Fridays, Saturdays, few Saturdays, and few Sundays. Hopefully this one will be not too long. And as I mentioned in the last video, anytime I do a video that's 39 minutes or less, 39 minutes or less, there will be no timestamp. No timestamp. But any of my videos where the length of it is 40 minutes or longer, 40 minutes or longer, then that's when I'll always include a timestamp in the comment section below. Here's what I wanted to quickly talk about today. Now, this is funny. You know, some of you guys make me shake my head. Oh, first of all, you notice, I don't know if you can tell with the resolution of this video, but you know, one thing I've never grown out before is a full beard. I've worn a mustache, I've worn a goatee, but I've never worn a full beard. And I'm trying to grow out a full beard, but it's kind of taking a long time, man. So we'll see how that goes. You know, if a month from now you see me looking like, you know, Omari Hardwick from Power or something like that, man, you know, y'all gonna trip, even though I know this part will be gray because this part of my chin is gray. But yeah, I'm trying to grow out a beard, man. So we'll see how that goes. Here's what I want to talk about today, man. Number one, I had a great live stream with my Patreon subscribers yesterday. It was great. And one guy, he made a lighthearted comment that I found interesting and flattering, actually. He said, when history is written, particularly when it comes to discussions about male-female interactions, he said people are going to mark the time as before ARC and Mo 1 and after ARC and Mo 1. I got a kick out of that. He said that would be the split in time. Everything that happened before ARC and Mo 1 and after ARC and Mo 1. Man, again, I'm going to try not to get long-winded and go into one of my infamous rambles and digressions. But there's a lot I want to talk about. So here's the thing. Here's the starting point. And this causes me to bring up something else. In my last video, if you look in the comments section, I had a couple guys ask me questions about another black male dating coach. And I'm going to go ahead and say his name. A lot of times I don't like to mention people by name, but I'm going to go ahead and say his name. Alpha Male Strategies. I have a lot of people who come in my comment section asking about him. Sometimes it's people from the category of my haters and critics, and even a few times, honestly, it's some of my own followers and supporters. They will ask me, you know, my thoughts on AMS. And anyway, somebody mildly criticized and said, Alan, man, how come you can't do a video without mentioning AMS name? And I was basically like, please. Before this video right now, which I am mentioning his name, name a video where I mention his name. Most of the time in my comment section, if his name is mentioned, I don't bring him up first. Somebody else usually brings him up first. But here's the thing I'm going to say as far as bringing him up. He ain't the first motherfucker I brought up in my audio podcast and or video podcast, and he won't be the last. Like, if a lot of my longtime followers will remember, beginning with late 2010, all the way up until as recently as 2016, 2017, I used to bring up this guy named Yad a lot, who I had a little tiff with, a verbal tiff with in London, when I spoke in London in 2010. In case you don't know, there's a guy named Yad, Y-A-D. He's considered one of the most popular, if not the most popular, pickup artists in the United Kingdom, and specifically in London. And yeah, we had a little verbal exchange about the concept of subcommunication. Subcommunication. When I spoke in London. He's big. A lot of indirect guys are big on this concept known as sub. What is sub? Subcommunication is basically the idea that you can communicate your sexual desires and interests to a woman without being verbally direct or verbally explicit, or for the most part, verbal at all. They believe that you can just use your facial expressions, your body language, to let a woman know you're interested in having sex with them without actually verbalizing your desires, interests, and intentions. That's known as subcommunication. Here's always been my argument against subcommunication. I'm not totally against subcommunication. I believe in using nonverbal communication in conjunction with verbal communication. I don't believe in choosing one over the other. I believe in actually using both. I believe in using nonverbal communication methods in conjunction with verbal communication methods. Because here's the problem with exclusively. Remember in my last video? Yeah, my last video, I was talking about the archetype of the cock-teasing manipulative time waster. The cock-teasing manipulative time waster. I'm going to guarantee you, I'll put money on this. If you try to get a woman who's a cock-teasing manipulative time waster in bed strictly through nonverbal means, you're going to get played. I guarantee you will. I put money on it. You're going to get played. You're going to get played. I've known a lot of guys who've gotten played by women who were cock-teasing manipulative time wasters, guys who tried to get women in bed. Speaking of that, I had a guy write me who watched my last few videos, and he said, I'm going to be paraphrasing words, I don't have his email in front of me, but basically he said, Alan, he said, man, I'm a fan of your videos and your books, man. I've read Mo 1 and I've read Who Said Again, but here would be my criticism. He said, man, sometimes I think you can fuck shit up by being too verbally specific with women about what you want to do. He said, case in point, I met this woman and admittedly I engaged in a bunch of lengthy small talk, something I know you don't like and I don't. I'm not a fan. I always discourage guys from engaging in lengthy small talk, fluff talk, trivial chit chat. And so this guy admitted, he said he met this woman, he engaged in at least 30 minutes of small talk with her, but he felt like it worked to his advantage because they ended up exchanging phone numbers. They ended up going out on a date. I think either after the first date or the second date, they went back to her place and they started making out. And he claims that everything was going fine until he specifically said, I can't wait to fuck you. And he claimed, she said, what did you just say? And he said, I can't wait to fuck you. And she said, no, that's not happening. You're not going to fuck me. You know, I don't mind making out with you, but you're not. Doesn't that sound like my hotel story from the last video? Remember my hotel story from the last video where I said I made out with this woman, but she let me know that she wasn't going to let me fuck her? Well, he basically said, same thing happened to him. He said, the woman said, I'm not going to go as far as to allow you to fuck me. But here was his criticism. He said, Alan, I truly believe if I had never verbally said, I cannot wait to fuck you, that I would have been able to fuck her. I believe if I would have just kept kissing her and, you know, making out with her and squeezing on her tits and doing whatever, I would have been able to just slide my dick in her pussy without saying anything. And I think she would have been cool with it. So, Alan, I think by you encouraging men to verbalize everything is kind of detrimental, because I think sometimes being verbal and being verbally direct and specific and explicit can fuck shit up. Really? Really? Insert dog face here. Man, when you motherfuckers gonna wake up, man? So, to the guy who wrote me this email, you know who you are. So you must be totally oblivious to the idea of frivolous, invalid, and false date rape charges. You must be. You have to be. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you must be just been living in a rock for the last 10, 15, 20 years when it comes to women accusing men of date rape, even when it's invalid and unsubstantiated. Let me give you a story. I had a close friend and a fraternity brother. This was years ago. Years ago. He met a woman at a nightclub. And they went back to her place and they started making out. And she had told him specifically, I don't want to go all the way. I don't remember exact words, but essentially she told him, I don't want to go all the way. She basically was telling him, I don't mind making out, but I don't want to actually fuck. But he kept kissing her. He kept making out with her. And then without verbalizing anything, he started slowly but surely sliding his dick in her pussy. And she said, no, stop, no. And you know, a lot of us guys, when we hear a woman say, no, stop, if it's not in a firm, serious manner, we tend to take that as token resistance. So he said, she was like, stop, no, don't do this, stop. Anyway, he ended up sliding his dick in her pussy. He fucked her. Now, he said while he was fucking her, she was enjoying it. She was moaning and shit. At one point, she said, fuck me harder and all this shit. So he thought he had scored, right? Wrong. 2 days later, police come knocking on his door and inform him that this woman has charged him with rape. Date rape. Yes, this woman charged him with date rape. She said he forced himself on her without her giving him explicit consent. Here's the good news. He got acquitted. That's the good news. He didn't end up going to prison. He got acquitted. The bad news is he did have to go to trial, though. He had to hire an attorney. Luckily for him, he hired a really good attorney. He had to go to trial. There was witnesses and everything. It was a big fuck up for him. Again, he ended up getting acquitted, but it didn't prevent him from being charged with rape. Now, you could say he dodged the bullet, man. He dodged the bullet. He didn't have to go to jail, go to prison, whatever. But at minimum, it fucked up his reputation for a little while simply because of the fact he got charged with rape, man. And one of the reasons I put a lot of the blame on him, man, similar to the guy who wrote me the email, he ignored this woman. The woman, he admitted to me that the woman straight up had told him beforehand that she didn't want to fuck. He said she used the words, she said, I don't want to go all the way. She basically was telling him, I just want to make out. But I don't want to actually go as far as to fuck. He ignored that, man. He ignored that and just ended up fucking her. And look what happened. He dodged a bullet because he got acquitted, but he got charged with rape, man. And that's why I tell guys, man, I tell guys at least two things related to avoiding date rape charges. Never have sex with a woman for the first time while she got drugs or alcohol in her system. I know a lot of guys disagree with that, but I'm going to tell you straight up. You should never have sex with a woman for the first time while she has drugs and or alcohol in her system. You asking for a potential date rape charge. Number two, man, I don't fuck a woman unless a woman specifically tells me either over the phone or face to face, Alan, I want you to fuck me. Or Alan, I can't wait for you to fuck me. If a woman doesn't say something to that, something along those lines, I don't fuck a woman. And I'm dead serious. I won't fuck a woman. I don't fuck any woman until she gives me some type of verbal consent. Verbal consent. If a woman doesn't give me some type of verbal consent, my dick, I don't care if she got her legs wide open and her pussy lips wide open. I'm not sliding my dick in a woman's pussy if she has not given me verbal consent. Especially in this day and age, in what's known as the rape culture era. Hell no, man. Ain't no woman gonna charge. I've never been charged with sexual assault or date rape, and I never, as far as I can help it, I never will. I ain't gonna have no woman charge me with that shit, man. I make sure a woman specifically says to me, Alan, I want you to fuck me. Alan, I want you to fuck me. That's one reason why I like to have phone sex with women before I have sex with them. That's where I gain my verbal consent from, man. I make women say to me, Alan, I want you. If a woman don't say, Alan, I want you to fuck me, or Alan, I can't wait for you to fuck me, or something along those lines, I will not fuck a woman. And that's what I tell my clients, to do the same thing. You never want to leave room for what's known as plausible deniability. I did a whole video on that. If I can find it, I'll put the link in the comment section. You never want to leave room for plausible deniability. I told you guys a story about this guy named Dante Nero. He's a friend of mine. He used to be real good friends with the comedian Patrice O'Neal before he died. And he interviewed me on his podcast show called The Beige Phillip Show. The Beige Phillip Show. And we had a good interview. We were talking about my Mode 1 approach. And anyway, without getting into too lengthy of a story, he was like, Alan, I love your Mode 1 approach. I love a lot of things about your Mode 1 approach. But he said, there's one thing I don't like about your Mode 1 approach. I said, what's that? He said, man, you don't leave room for plausible deniability, man. I said, exactly. I said, that's by design. He said, oh, man. And his argument was, here was his argument, and I'm going to be paraphrasing his words, but essentially he said, Alan, the thing about women, a lot of women are hoes and sluts, but they don't want to be treated like they're hoes and sluts. So the reason why I endorse plausible deniability, if for no other reason, is because I don't want to be guilty of treating a hoe or a slut as if she's a hoe or slut. You know, he said, I think women will prevent you from fucking them if they feel like you're treating them like. And I've mentioned this before on Blog Talk. I had one of my own cousins one time say that to me. We got into like a semi-heated debate one time. My cousin, he said one time to me, he said, Alan, he said, man, I like the way you deal with women for the most part, but he said, if there's one thing that the way you deal with women that I'm not down with, man, he said, you basically treat your fuck buddies as if they're your fuck buddies. And I was basically like, and your point is? He said, man, I don't like doing that, man. Because see, he was the type, at the risk of calling out my own cousin, he was the type that would wine and dine women, take women out on dates. He would introduce them to his parents. He would basically almost treat a lot of his fuck buddies as if they were potential girlfriend material. That's what a lot of indirect guys believe in doing. That's what my own cousin used to do. He would treat a lot of women that he knew he just wanted to have casual sex with. He would almost give them the misleading impression that they were potential girlfriend material. See, I ain't down with that shit, man. I ain't down with that shit. And his argument was, well, I feel like you're going to lose opportunities for pussy if you treat fuck buddies as if they're fuck buddies. I said, dude, I ain't never trying to blur the lines. I don't ever want to blur the lines with women. I ain't trying to toy with women. I ain't trying to blur the lines. I'm not trying to mislead or manipulate women. I want women to know where they stand. And see, this brings me back to AMS. AMS basically feels the same way. He said that both publicly and in his book. One of his criticisms of direct is he feels like when you're direct with women, women will potentially get turned off because they'll feel like you're treating them like they're sluts or hoes, or if nothing else, strictly fuck buddies. And he feels like most women would be turned off by that. That's bullshit. Number one, that's bullshit. That ain't never been my history. That ain't never been my history. I can only operate on what I've experienced and what I've observed. That ain't been my experience, and that ain't been my observation. That ain't been my experience, and that hasn't been my observation. If guys want to believe that shit. But here's the other reason why I was going to bring up something AMS said in his book. Oh, here's the biggest thing. So I kind of went off on a segue thinking about this guy who sent me the email talking about he would rather just put his dick in a woman. But here's some other comments I've been getting. Mainly, and I'm a general, mainly from guys who are fanboys of AMS, but even some guys who might not be fanboys of his, just fans of the indirect method, period. A lot of AMS followers have written comments in my comment section, or I've seen it sometimes in his comment section, the few videos I've checked out of his, where they say, the problem with Alan Roger Currie is he doesn't realize that being verbally direct with women is outdated. That is antiquated, outdated, ineffective, and generally out of style. Matter of fact, I wrote an article where I mentioned that, about the idea of guys criticizing Mo One for being outdated. I'll put that in the comment section. I think that was that was my next to last. Not my last article on the Negro Manosphere, but my next to last article on the Negro Manosphere was related to that. My next to last article. Well, my first response to people saying, Mo, the idea of being verbally direct with women was in style in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, but in the 21st century is fading out of style. You know what my first response is going to be. Insert dog face here. Now, I'm going to use a word I don't even like to use, man. There's some words on my video podcast I always tell you I don't even like the word. Like, I don't like to use the N-word, but a lot of times I've used it. I don't like to call people stupid, but sometimes I have. Man, if you believe that being verbally direct was something that was the norm in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, but now that we're in the 21st century, it's becoming the exception to the norm. I would venture to say not only are you delusional, but you are fucking retarded. And again, I don't even like to use the R word. You're fucking retarded. And I'm dead serious. You're fucking retarded. That's what you are. For anybody who says some stupid shit like that, you're fucking retarded. Why? Name any decade in history, particularly in the last 50, 60, 70 years, where over 50% of men in society were verbally direct with women about their desire to have them as a fuck buddy and just to engage in casual sex with them. Name any decade in society where well over 50% of men, in order for something to be the norm, that would mean that over 50% of the men in society would have to be exhibiting that behavior. Name one period. 1970s? Nope. 1980s? Nope. 1990s? Nope. During the 80s and 90s, like I started being Mo 1 around roughly 1985. That was the first, I would say, first full calendar year where I started being Mo 1 with women. Was 1985. Between 1985 and 1999, when I was Mo 1 with women, I was always considered the rare exception to the rule. Always. Like I remember when I was in college, among my own frat brothers, my behavior wasn't the norm in my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. I would say no less than 96, 97% of my frat brothers, they were about being indirect with women when it came to casual sex. They were about being indirect with women. I was one of only maybe 3 or 4% of guys in my fraternity that was about being direct, verbally direct with women about our desire for short-term, non-monogamous, casual sex. Mo 1 and the idea of being verbally direct has always been the exception to the rule. Like if you read the book The Game by Neil Strauss, they briefly mentioned David X, who's a friend and fellow dating coach of mine. David X is probably the only person that's mentioned in that book that was known for being direct. And if you notice the way they talk about David X, they treat him like he's the exception to the rule. They treat him like he's the exception to the rule. Direct, being verbally direct with women, being upfront, specific, straightforwardly honest, and verbally direct with women about your desire to hook up with them, and specifically hook up with them for the sake of short-term, non-monogamous casual sex, that's always been the exception to the rule. That's never been the norm. That's never been the norm. Where do you guys even get that shit from? I don't even know where you guys get that shit from, man. I really don't. I don't know where you guys get that shit from. And what's even more amazing, I can see if an older guy was saying that, but it's mainly guys who are like 29 years of age or younger saying that stupid shit. Y'all wasn't even around. Y'all wasn't even of age in the latter part of the 20th century. So how would you fucking know? How would you fucking know what was the norm and what was not the norm in the 70s, 80s, and 90s if right now you're 29 years of age or younger, or even 35 years of age or younger? How would you fucking know? So here's what I have to tell you, man. And this relates to something a guy told me at a book signing event in California. I'll never forget, I was at a book signing event in California in August of 2006. So you're talking about over 12 years ago. I'll never forget what this guy told me. This guy was at this book signing event in Ventura County in California. And he said, "Alan, I read your book, Mo 1. I said, "Well, of course, what'd you think?" He said, "Real solid book, man. I really liked it." He said, here was the key comment though. He said, "But your book, society ain't ready for your book right now." I said, "Really?" He said, "Nah, man." He said, "Society ain't ready for your book right now." He said, "Your book is about 10 to 15 years ahead of its time." I never forget him saying that, because for the most part, it's proven to be true. That's exactly what he said. He said, your book is about 10 to 15 years ahead of its time. And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yep." He said, at circa 2006, right now, at the time it was August of 2006, he said, right now, he said, society ain't ready for Mo 1. He said, society ain't ready for Mo 1. He said, but in about 10, 15 years, that's when society will slowly but surely start warming up to guys being Mo 1 with women. And in relation to this live stream I did yesterday, that's what a couple guys were saying in my live stream, my Patreon subscribers. I forget how we got on the subject, but somebody asked me this question. Oh, I think it was simply, somebody asked me, they said, "Alan, how do you foresee male," it was in relation to my last article, my last Negro, so I'll post that in the comment section. I did my very last Negro Manosphere article. I asked the question, which period have women changed the most? Between roughly 1960 and 1974, or between 2003 and 2017? Because most older men say that the biggest period that women changed the most was between 1960 and 1974. A lot of younger men have suggested that women have changed more, just as much, if not more, between 2003 and 2017. I would generally argue that both are significant. Women change in both of those periods, but in different ways, and I'll point that out in my article. Without getting too lengthy, in a nutshell, what I say is that here's the number one way women changed between 1960 and 1974. Women became more comfortable engaging in sex outside the context of marriage, number one. They became far more comfortable indulging in sex with men outside the context of marriage. And even more specifically, they became more comfortable engaging in sex with men without even being in a long-term monogamous relationship with them, period. Even a long-term boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. In other words, they became more comfortable engaging in short-term non-monogamous casual sex than they had ever had in the decades prior. So that's the two biggest ways that women changed after that period between 1960 and 1974, is women became more down to engage in sex outside the context of marriage, and they became more down to indulge in casual sex, short-term, non-monogamous casual sex. The number one way that I would say women have changed between the period of 2003 and 2017 is in at least 2 to 3 ways. Number one, because of social media, a lot of women have become attention whores, cock teasers, and just overall manipulative time wasters. You have way more manipulative time waster type women in society than probably ever before. A lot of women who just want attention from men. I mean, women have always wanted attention from men, but it's been exacerbated exponentially because of social media. You got a lot of women that just want attention from men that they know they're never going to date and they're never going to fuck. That's the number one way I would say women change between the period of 2003 and 2017. Number two, I was talking about rape and date rape. Women nowadays look at men as being more thirsty, more sexually aggressive, more physically forceful, and generally as sexual predators. Sexual predators. That's one of the biggest ways that women have changed between 2003 and 2017, is that a lot of women, I should say, look at men as being potential sexual predators who are going to harass them, be physically forceful with them, and basically just try to force their way into their pants. And that's why women are sensitive about the subjects of harassment and rape and date rape and sexual assault. And so, yeah. And here's a simple way that I would say that the 21st century has changed for both men and for women. And this is why I would say, make the really strong argument that Mode 1 is in its early stages. The idea of being Mode 1 and verbally direct is actually on its early stages, and it's just going to become more impactful in society as the years go by. And that's what I told these guys in the live stream. I said 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, everybody going to be Mode 1. Everybody going to be Mode 1. Or if not everybody, a large percentage of society going to be Mode 1. Here's a simple reason why. If I had to sum it up in one word, internet. The internet. See, you got to understand what the internet has done, man, when it comes to the subject of manipulative head games, which is what Mode 1 neutralizes, manipulative head games. See, here's what's pretty much happened ever since the advent of the internet has taken place. It's allowed men to share a lot of knowledge, wisdom, insight, and information with other men, and it's allowed women to do the same thing. So what do you think that means? What do you think that means? What that means is that, I got to go. I got a consultation. I got to wrap up. So I got about 10 more minutes. As we progress in the 21st century, not too many men are going to be able to run game on women. Why? Because women are going to be hip to all their games. Because of the internet, if nothing else. Because of the internet. Women are going to be hip to all the men's games. How are you going to be able to run game on a woman if she knows every game in your playbook? I mean, seriously, I've always said that. You can't run game on a woman who knows all the games in your playbook, in your manipulative playbook. And the same with women. Women are not going to be able to run game on men because of guys like myself, if I have to take a large part of the credit, as well as some other guys in the manosphere. A lot of women aren't going to be able to run game on men because men pretty much know all their methods of their playbook. Perfect example with me would be Possibility of Sex. My book, The Possibility of Sex, is a book that basically exposes a lot of women's manipulative head games. That's why, quite frankly, that's why a lot of women don't like. That's my least liked book among women, is The Possibility of Sex. And I've had some women that have openly said that's specifically the reason why they don't like it. Like, I got a female friend, she lives in Ohio. She said that. She said, Alan, I hate your book, The Possibility of Sex, because you expose too much of women's playbook. Man, that's why men love that book. That's my highest rated book on audible.com. Of all my 4 audiobooks, my highest rated book is, in terms of the 5-star ratings, is Possibility of Sex. But it's my least liked by women because I expose their head games. But for both genders, man, the more women have access to the internet, the more they're going to be exposed to men's head games. The more men use the internet, the more they're going to be exposed to women's head games. So neither men or women are going to be able to run game on each other because members of each gender are going to know each other's playbook. Like right now, ain't no woman can run no game on me. I tell you right now, there is a 99.999% chance that no woman on planet Earth will ever be able to run game on Alan Roger Currie. I know their shit too well. I know all their game plans, tactics, and techniques. And most women who are experienced with men know pretty much all of men's techniques. Men's is easy to determine. Men's ain't hard. The biggest game among men is I'm going to pretend like I value both your sexual and your non-sexual companionship when really I just want your sexual companionship. That's the biggest game that men run on women. Is some variation of that is the game of I'm going to pretend for the next few days or the next few weeks or the next few months that I genuinely value both your sexual and your non-sexual companionship when in reality I just really want your sexual companionship. That's the number one game that men run on women. And there's still right now a percentage of women who are stupid enough and naive enough to fall for that stupid shit. But you ain't going to find no woman who's a seasoned manipulator that's going to fall for that dumb shit. Women have a similar game. Their similar game to that is I'm going to pretend like I value both your sexual and non-sexual companionship when really I just want your non-sexual companionship. That's one of the top 3 games that women run on men, is I'm going to give you the misleading impression that I value both your sexual and your non-sexual companionship, but really I just want your non-sexual companionship and access to your financial resources and material possessions. Mode 1 is the wave of the future, man. Mode 1 ain't faded out in popularity because number one, again, Mode 1 was always the exception to the rule. Being verbally direct with women was always the exception to the rule. 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. Mode 1 and being verbally direct in general was never the norm. There's never been a decade in society where over 50% of the men in society would approach a woman and just straight up tell them that all they wanted to do was have casual sex with them. I dare you to name a decade where that has been the norm. That has never been the norm, ever. Never in U.S. society has that been the norm. That's always been the exception to the rule. Indirect has always been the norm. In the 1970s, most men were indirect when it came to their desire for casual sex. 1980s, most men were indirect. 1990s, most men were indirect. Early 2000s, most men were indirect. That's all PUAs promoted was indirect. I would say current day, starting with 2010 up until 2018, the vast majority of men in society are indirect. Direct has never been the norm, ever. It has never been the norm in society. But I guarantee you, you can mark my words on this, mark Alan Roger Currie's words on this, over the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, I can almost guarantee you that Mo 1 is going to become the norm. Yep, I might pass away before that day happens, but I guarantee you, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, the idea of men and women being verbally direct with each other is going to be the norm. It's going to be the norm. And on a final note, you know what? And this relates to something I posted on my Facebook public page, and I might put a link in the comment section. A lot of men don't want that to happen. You would think most men want that to happen. No, they don't. No, they don't. Read, if I post that Facebook link, read what a couple of guys said. In a nutshell, you know, a lot of guys don't want women to be Mo 1. They don't want women to be Mo 1. Why? Without getting too lengthy, too detailed? A lot of men don't want women to be the choosers. They want women to be the chosen. See, a lot of men, they don't want women to be the choosers because they know that if women become the choosers, which feminism has given them the opportunity to do, that they'll let their hypergamous tendencies dictate who they choose. In more blunt terms, a lot of men feel like if women become the primary choosers of sexual companions, they're only going to go after the top 15, 20, 25% of men, and most desirable men. And the other roughly 75, 80% of men is going to be just shit out of luck. So a lot of men don't want women to be the choosers. They don't want them to have the opportunity to be choosers. And they feel like if all women become Mo 1, then they're going to become more of the choosers, and they just going to choose highly, to put in Ron Will's terminology, highly select men. That they're only going to choose highly select men. And a lot of men don't want that to happen, man. So that's why Mo 1 gets a lot of haterade. Yeah, a lot of men, they don't want to be Mo 1 themselves, and even more so, they don't want women to be Mo 1. Yep. All right, fellas, enjoy your weekend. If you're in a cold city like me, stay warm. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.